Welcome back to the show. Today we have Dr. Kate Truitt. She's a clinical psychologist specializing in cutting-edge treatments for trauma and stress-related disorders. Kate, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think it made a lot of sense to maybe dive a little bit deeper into some of the techniques that we talked about, kind of the radio version. And I think it's also interesting to me just to kind of keep the conversation going, because I think a lot of the people listening to this show are, in tech or kind of maybe other businesses where everybody deals with some sort of stress at some point, maybe kind of on a long ongoing basis, and they kind of are looking for anything to really kind of cope with that, right? Because we live stressful lives. But maybe before we kind of get into that, let's get to know you a little bit better. Maybe start off with kind of where you grew up and a little bit of your background.
Okay. I'm from the Midwest and grew up in Kansas. I moved to Los Angeles to further a modeling career back when I was in my teens.
Nice.
And ended up falling in love with the world of business and then falling in love with neuroscience, oddly enough. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so I think it's just kind of in the blood.
Sure, that's great.
And so I left modeling behind. It's a complicated industry, and it's a very hard industry to be in. And so I definitely had a lot of my own insecurities that came out of that, and some less than preferable coping mechanisms for dealing with stress.
Sure.
Overworking, not eating enough, smoking, which in LA is a huge no-no these days. And that led some of my journey into looking at stress management, and then also looking at how this impacts the body. I got very sick for a while and started really examining the entire system and the role of stress on the system. And through my professional endeavors of now doing what I do for a living, which is I specialize in trauma and treatment of stress. And it's fun. It's neat. The data we have today is really neat.
Sure. No, I think that's great. And it's interesting because at least somebody like yourself, you kind of went through it and now you're helping people deal with it, right? And I think that's super important, right? Because you can maybe not relate directly, but it's like, obviously in the modeling world, like we all know, right? Like we don't need to cover that, but I think like just being around that too, right? And seeing other people and then being on the other side where you're helping people, you're like, well, I remember, I had a friend or whatever, right? So I think that's great. So what exactly do you kind of do now in your practice, and then kind of transition into some of the techniques that you guys you're doing? Because they're very cutting edge and I think really cool.
Yeah, they are very cool. So one of the things that I really learned from modeling and took away from that was the intense externalization of self. And in the modeling industry, you are an object, but that I think is something that influences all of us across the board is how do we show up? What are the expectations and the requirements of how we show up externally? And I see that today in my day-to-day practice so frequently where people have lost that connection to self.
Sure.
Because they have to be this person. And especially with entrepreneurs being in the startup world, there's this interesting juxtaposition of I'm putting this product, I'm bringing this service or something new out there, and yet I am that brand. I am doing it. And so in my practice, I've taken what I learned from that modeling world and then also what I know about neuroscience and dove deeper into what is it that our brain latches onto that says I need to externalize.
Sure.
And how does the experiences of our past play a role in our ability to show up in our current life, and some of maybe the facades that we put on or the fears that get in our way. So in my practice, I really lean heavily on brain development and brain functioning to sponsor my patients to be able to live their best lives, to be their empowered self, so to speak.
Sure. No, I think that's great. So what exactly is kind of the havening techniques, and how did you get involved with that?
So I had PTSD for about 6 years.
Oh, wow.
I lost a partner a week before our wedding. We'd been together for 10 years. And I came home. I was the one who found him, and I couldn't save him. And results of that night were obviously life altering.
Yeah, totally.
And I developed very severe PTSD after that. And I was already a trauma specialist at that point, and I tried every technique under the sun that you could imagine. And they helped, but they didn't get me where I needed to be.
Sure.
And I happened to be at a treatment center. A lot of treatment centers will fly out practitioners to kind of say, here's what we do, here's who we are, send us your patients.
Okay,
And I was in
gotcha.
Jacksonville, Florida at one of those. And I ran into a colleague of mine who also did trauma work. And he said, hey, have you heard of this thing? And that sounds crazy. You're telling me that you're going to do this, which this is the havening touch that I was describing on the podcast.
Right.
And you're going to heal trauma. And he said, yeah, but I was desperate at that point.
Sure.
I just started dating a great guy, now my husband.
Congrats.
And I never would have imagined I could have gotten married, having gone through what I went through. And so, and my entire life was being impacted by the symptoms of PTSD. And so I took a leap of faith and flew out to New York and learned the techniques. And in the first breakout group, one of the founders sat down across from me, Dr. Stephen Rudin, and he's like, does anybody have something to work on? And I was that person, like, oh yeah, definitely. I've got this terrible thing. You want to try it?
Sure.
And 15 minutes later, the memory that had encoded was cleared.
Really? That's
15 minutes.
Wow.
Which sounds insane, and it sounds too good to be true.
Sure.
I know that.
Sure. So what exactly, like you kind of just quickly covered it, but what exactly is it? And like, is there different things you need to do to treat different things, or kind of walk me through that?
Well, so havening relies on these natural touches that we do when we're stressed. So if you think about being stressed, we might wring our hands, or we'll cup our shoulders. Sure. We rub our forehead a lot.
Yeah.
You know, oh no.
I bite my nails, I think.
Yeah, there you go. I was a big nail biter growing up for sure. And what they've done is they've harnessed these motions into natural motions of attunement.
Okay.
That release a specific electrochemical energy in the body called a delta wave. And through doing that, so just take a moment and do this with me. And as you're watching me do it, your little mirror neurons are going to be going anyway. Now, how does that feel?
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of weird. But
yeah, totally.
Go across the brow.
All right.
How does that feel?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So in the womb, fetuses will do this when they're stressed.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Isn't that incredible?
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
What this is doing through that release of a delta wave, it's releasing serotonin and GABA into your system.
Okay.
So we all know serotonin, the happy transmitter.
Yeah.
And GABA is the opposite of something called glutamate. In order for us to feel anxious, we have to have glutamate in our system.
Okay.
And GABA is the opposite of it.
Oh,
so it's a neuromodulator that allows our system to calm.
Okay.
And so these simple motions, just doing this and nothing else, will release this electrochemical cascade into your system.
So how long do you recommend people do this? Or is it just kind of until they feel better?
My assignment for my patients is to do this, any of these motions, and most people have a sweet spot. So you face, arms, or hands, find your sweet spot.
Okay.
And do this for around 2 minutes while, and this is going to sound silly, humming childhood songs. So Itsy Bitsy Spider, Old MacDonald, Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Sure.
The reason for that is when we're stressed, our brain starts circling in a loop.
Okay.
Like we talked about last time, those thoughts that wake us up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And so by singing a song that's unrelated while doing this, you're clicking your brain into a different thought process while releasing the calming electrochemical presence.
Okay.
And so you can sing 2 rounds of Mary Had a Little Lamb and then count backwards from 30 by threes, and you'll feel calmer.
That's interesting.
So 2 minutes.
Sure, which is, it's probably pretty hard to not find that time in the day, right? Like it's not long. You're not saying you need this 45-minute thing and people are going to be like, that's just not going to happen, right?
Yeah, I can't go do yoga for 45 minutes. I don't have time.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so I'm not saying don't do yoga, but like I think a lot of people, but I think to be fair though, I think a lot of people either don't have time or don't want to make the time, right? For
Or they're
certain
nervous
things,
to
right?
make the time because that it clicks into that anxiety loop I was just describing, saying there's too much other stuff that needs to get done.
Sure.
And it makes us feel worse because even though we're taking this time out for us, we're taking 45 minutes to invest in us, our anxiety brain's going, I need that time to be successful. I need that time to be focused elsewhere.
Sure. So how okay, so like people get in the routine of doing this kind of a few times a day, a
Uh-huh.
couple times a week, or just kind of when you need to do it.
Well, I call it dosing. So
Okay.
just as um, somebody would take an antidepressant every
Okay.
morning, I say, okay, so give yourself that dose of serotonin every morning.
Okay.
And what we have the capacity to do, which we're not taught, and largely this is because it's new out of the world of neuroscience, but we have the capacity to change the way our brain works.
Okay.
And the way we can do that is through using this electrochemical activity that we can generate and creating a positive process.
Okay.
So, one of my favorite techniques I call the creating possibility techniques.
Okay.
And it's the idea is you wake up in the morning, you put your feet flat on the ground, and you
Okay.
ask yourself, how do I want to feel today?
Okay.
And so maybe you want to feel strong. That's fair. Okay, I want to feel strong.
Sure.
So you can generate a time where you felt strong. Maybe it's when you were at the gym lifting weights. Maybe it was a presentation that you know you nailed and you're just really proud of. Maybe it's an experience where you did something that you're really proud of, graduating from high school or college.
Sure.
And you can put yourself back in that memory just by thinking about it.
Okay.
By thinking about it, your brain will start to remember how it felt in that moment.
Interesting.
So take a moment, and
Yeah.
if you don't
Okay.
mind if I use you
No,
as a bit
no,
of a
no.
okay.
Totally. That's probably why I wanted to do the TV version of this. So yeah. Okay. Do
So
close
think,
my eyes.
yeah, close your eyes and can
Okay.
you and just search your brain database for a time where you felt confident.
Okay.
You got one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want you to walk through that experience and really notice how you felt in your body. Notice how you were standing.
Okay.
Notice the thoughts you're thinking about yourself. If there's any energy, maybe you're standing up straighter when you remember this.
Interesting.
Now, what are you noticing shift as you focus on this? Or
It's
are you noticing
uh,
anything shift?
it, I feel calmer, like almost
Okay.
instantly. It's weird,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Like, well, not weird in a bad way, but like just how quick that changes, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, right? Because
Yeah.
like,
Because you have the neuronal memory of it. It's
yeah,
part of your system.
sure, and
Okay.
like just even it's just kind of in a stressful like week already because like, but just how different, almost how quick, right? It,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, interesting.
Yeah. So now keep your
Okay,
mind there, and I
okay,
want you to start. And you can open your eyes if you like and
okay,
follow my motions. So start
okay,
doing your arms, your face, just
okay,
very gently. Now I want you to keep doing these motions and go back to that memory.
okay.
And close your eyes and bring that memory back up. And what's the dominant feeling you have? Is it confident or is it calm? What do you notice when you put yourself back in that memory?
It's calming for sure.
Calming.
Yeah.
So now I want you to repeat after me. You're going to say this statement 5 times. What if I was calm?
What if I was calm? What
Okay.
if I was calm? What if I was calm? What if I was calm? Hmm. Okay.
Very good. How'd that feel?
Totally calming.
Okay. So do you feel like you are calm?
Now,
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah,
let's
it's
go with I
interesting.
am calm and just
Okay.
really own it. I am
I
calm.
am calm. I
And
am
keep
calm.
it
I am calm. Okay. I am calm. Hmm. I
perfect.
am calm. Interesting.
Take a deep breath in and release. And you can go ahead and open your eyes and just check in with yourself.
It's totally
And
like I don't know how to describe the feeling, but it's like the only way I can describe it to you, and maybe I don't know if it's weird or not, but like I spent a bunch of time in LA a number of years ago, and I
Hmm.
used to go sit in Santa Monica, like just wander down the beach a ways where there was like
Yeah.
nobody and you couldn't see anybody, and I
Yeah.
would just like sit like a foot from the water, and like it would take maybe an hour and a half, and just like
Mm.
ponder whatever, like life or
Yeah.
where I wanted to be. Like I was 21 at the time, so it was, who knows where life was going to go at that point, right? And it's the same feeling I would
Yeah.
wait for a feeling, and it's the same feeling, and I don't know how to describe what the
Yeah.
feeling is, but like, well, yeah, that's
It's like
interesting. That's wild.
connection, attune. Yeah,
Because like I
it's.
haven't felt that feeling in a long time, right?
Oh, wow.
So that's cool. That's really cool. I'll try that
And
for
you
sure.
can bring that up. You have the power to do that as often as you want.
Because like I don't live by the ocean, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you only go what, maybe once a year or two,
Yeah.
and like sometimes you don't have like an hour and a half just to sit by yourself, right, and do
Hmm.
that. So that's cool. That's really cool. Like,
Well, and
and
a really great exercise for you because you have that experience is to imagine you're sitting there
yeah,
watching the waves
totally.
roll in. And as you're applying the havening touch, as it rolls in, say the word peaceful. And
Okay.
as the wave rolls out, say the word calm.
Would you listen
Just
to stuff
imagine.
too? Like,
Huh?
would you listen to sounds of something, or
You
like
can?
ocean, or
Yeah,
like, okay,
absolutely.
okay, interesting. Wild. Yeah, because it's still here for sure. Like, how long is it supposed to last?
It will last largely until you have another major electrochemical shift, until something else happens where your body orients towards something else.
Okay.
What's amazing, though, is that the more you do this, the more you dose yourself, as I
Sure.
say, the more you're shifting your foundation to be in that calm, grounded space. And you're
Sure.
actually working with neuroplasticity.
Okay. Interesting. So, I don't I don't really know what to ask you right now, because it's like I think I'm just trying to enjoy the moment. And really, like,
Yeah.
to be fair, like
Well,
I don't think I've felt like this in like a long time.
and that took 45 seconds.
Yeah, which like when you say 15 minutes, right? To
Uh-huh. And
how
that was a huge trauma,
yeah,
15 minutes.
sure, right? And if you can just calm yourself within a minute or two,
Hmm.
that's wild.
Yeah. It's
So,
just pulling your brain out of it and using experiences that you've already had. So you happy, content, peaceful, calm, loved, safe, secure,
sure.
excited.
So how do you work with people? Do you do these kind of like Skype video things? Do you have them come in? Do you do a bit of both? And like walk
I
me
have,
through a session, I
yeah.
guess, is what you.
So I do my work in session in
Okay.
person.
Okay.
I do have colleagues who do teletherapy, so they do their work via Skype. Um, my practice is busy enough that I get to do what I want, which means, and I prefer to be in person.
Sure.
Partially, the reason for that is when somebody else is applying the touch. So if I was there in the room, havening you,
Yeah.
the impact would be probably 5 to 10 times stronger, if you can
Interesting.
imagine.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
Because
Okay.
we're
Sure.
as a species, we're driven to attach. We're driven to touch.
Okay.
You know, if somebody has a bad day, what do? We reach up, kind of cup their shoulder, and go, "Hey, you doing okay?" Right?
Sure.
We
Yeah.
hug.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
Interesting.
it's part of our species, our underlying biology.
Sure.
So a patient comes to me, and usually they've had some sort of trauma, whether it be long-term chronic trauma from their childhood,
Sure.
or maybe they've been in a traumatic car accident, they were assaulted. And so I get a sense of their history, I get a sense of their brain development. And that's through conversation and some assignments I have them do. And then we start working on delinking these traumas. It's the scientific term is depotentiating the neurons.
Okay.
Or actually, the neurons that have encoded the trauma, we're turning them off. So they're no longer
Oh. Okay. Interesting.
guiding the way they're viewing the world.
Okay.
And sometimes, as I mean, like for me, it was 15 minutes. There's a great book that one of my colleagues published named after my experience called 15 Minutes to Freedom. And
Interesting.
it's about the havening techniques. He interviewed practitioners all over the world and their experience with using these tools. But sometimes an acute event, a car accident, an assault, that I'll see somebody for one session,
Okay.
and
Wow.
their traumas, they're good,
Because
they're
usually
done.
that takes years, correct? Or,
Yeah,
well,
or at least,
potentially.
yeah, it can potentially. With EMDR, which is kind of the gold standard for trauma reprocessing work right now, it's usually 8 to 10 sessions for one event.
Okay.
So this is one session.
Yeah.
Um, and it's using similar underlying mechanisms. It's just doing some of these mechanisms is just more powerful. And
Okay.
so it's new stuff.
Sure.
Um, Otherwise, we may be working across a lifespan because the brain has developed around these traumatic experiences, and so then we're going back and healing the traumas that have developed across their life and working with the neural networks, doing similar type of work that you and I just did to
Sure.
help build empowerment and resiliency and resource. So if somebody's been a quote unquote victim, they are now an empowered survivor, and even their self-concept changes completely. Who they are in the world changes.
Sure.
It's a cellular sense. It's really neat.
That's cool. So you're obviously in LA and you're booking months in advance. Where else can, if they can't potentially come fly
Mhm.
to see you or they're not in the LA area, where else in kind of the world can people go, or at least in kind of North America? Because I was looking at your site, it seems like you guys are kind of all over now.
Yeah, yeah, we've taken off quite a bit in the past 4 to 5 years. We do have practitioners. So in Canada, in Montreal, Vancouver,
Sure.
I'm doing a training up in Vancouver in November.
Nice.
We have, and then we're kind of this great emptiness for several states until we hit Oklahoma. I have a couple people coming to my training next weekend from Oklahoma, which is
Nice.
fantastic. And then we have practitioners in Louisville, and then it's largely East Coast
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
So, but the great thing, I mean, as you just saw how effective that is,
Yeah, I
just to
still
work
totally
with
feel it for sure.
therapy.
That's
How are you
cool.
feeling right now?
Total same. It's crazy to me. Like, not in a bad way, but just trying to take it all in, right?
Yeah,
And then still talk to you.
I know, I know. We should have done that last. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
it's good. It's good. So, okay, so what's kind of next? Are you guys kind of developing new techniques? Are you looking
Uh-huh.
into new things, or kind of how does that work?
Yeah, there's a group of us who are trainers who are working together, develop new techniques, put out new protocols. We're doing a lot more research
Okay,
because we know it works, and we need the science, the data to back it up. We understand neurologically how it works. I could walk you through it and be very boring. To me, it'd be very exciting, but it's
sure,
very dry.
sure.
Um, but we don't have the data points that we need, so we're in the process of doing that. And then for me personally, I'm expanding my practice, as I mentioned last
Yeah,
time, and working with a number of great practitioners to get very niche with specific areas. So bringing on as some major specialists in infertility and working with women who have postpartum depression, difficulties getting pregnant, or difficulty, with infants, things along those lines. And then areas working with children, different types of disorders, and then also working on how do we get more involved in the communities. And my colleague Harry Pickens is doing great work in how do we bring this to greater communities at large, because it is, as you've seen, so easily self-applied.
totally.
And imagine if we get this into schools, getting this into community centers where
Sure.
people can learn to modulate their nervous systems and heal themselves when they may not have access to the type of care they need.
Sure. Yeah. Well, or like even just the cost of some of this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So we're kind of coming to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So where can people get more information about yourself and kind of learn some of these techniques maybe on their own?
So they can find me on drtruitt.com. I have a Facebook page, Twitter, all that good stuff. Dr. Kate Truitt's my Facebook page, and I post several times a week different kind of empowerment, resource, resiliency exercises and assignments that people can apply to their own lives. So that's a good way to kind of dabble with quick, easy exercises.
Sure.
And then havening.org is the Havening Techniques headquarters website, and they have a list of practitioners across the world So you can see if there's somebody in your area, or look up and find people who are doing telehealth if you want
Sure.
to do a Skype session with somebody. Um, and then in terms of finding resources, same thing, Dr. Kate Truitt, or they're more than welcome to email me personally at kate@drtruitt.com.
Perfect.
And also, I'm happy to send out more information.
Perfect. Well, Kate, I really appreciate you taking the time of your day to be back on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you. And I totally still feel it. That's awesome. I'm wondering how long this is going to last. Hopefully, the
Well,
rest of the
put
day.
it to work. Put it to work. It's great stuff.
That's awesome. All right. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Bye.
Bye.